Hello Greenstylers, Cynthia here, and today I will be sewing up the Veltori top with you. The Veltori is a slim fit raglan top with a really unique collar and quarter zip. It has tons of style lines which enable lots of beautiful top stitching and color block opportunities. You are going to love this pattern. Here are some of the options you can choose from. Melanie, our Veltori designer, is here in the solid front and long sleeves. You'll see me making this short sleeve solid front. If you choose the side panel, it will look like this. And here's Melanie again with the solid front and giving you a good view of those sleeve panels. Let's take a look at all the pieces you'll need to cut to make your Veltori. First up is piece number B1. This is the front bodice. Make sure to transfer all of the notches from your pattern pieces, including 2 side notches and circle markings on either side. I'm making the solid front option. If making the side insert option, you'll cut on the inner cut line and also need to cut pieces B2. Next up is the back piece. You'll have double notches to mark from your pattern pieces, as well as a center notch at the very top. Cut 2 mirror images of the side back pieces. These are labeled piece B3, and you have lots of notches to mark as well. And also pay attention to which cut line based on whether or not you're making the side insert. Cut 1 of piece B5, the lower back piece. There are going to be notches on the side and also a center marking at the top. Again, making sure to notice the side cut lines, one for the solid front and one for the side insert. We'll need 2 mirror images of piece C2, the upper front insert. These are going to go on either side of your zipper, and you'll have notches on there as well as a little circle marking on the bottom. I find it easier to use a wash away marker for those circle markings rather than trying to cut out little circles. Mark your pieces however works best for you. We'll need 2 of the collar, piece C1. One of the pieces will be on the outside of your garment and one of the pieces will be on the inside, so you could use a liner fabric for the second piece if you like. Just note that when you unzip and open up your collar, that liner fabric will show on the outside. As you can see, I pieced together some fabrics for my liner, but you won't be able to tell when I open up my collar. And I want to show you just how the collar works. It's not super intuitive, so the pieces will be stitched together in this configuration, and then when you wear it, this will be the center front and the shirt will come down this way. So if you open up your collar like you unzip it, it'll look like that, and that's what will be showing from the inside of your shirt. So I hope that will help you pick your fabrics. Next up is piece S1. These are the sleeves, and you will need 2 of them as mirror images. Of course, marking those notches. I've cut the short sleeve length, and yours will be longer than this if you choose the long sleeve length. We all need at piece S2 the sleeve insert pieces, 2 of them as mirror images. And finally, there's an optional zipper guard. You don't need the zipper guard, but if you plan to be wearing your collar up a lot and you want to protect your neck in case the zipper is irritating to you, cut 2 of these as mirror images and mark the notch at the top. To make the zipper guard, we'll begin with our 2 zipper guard pieces, and we want to place them with right sides together just like this, and you can add a few pins to hold it in place. Stitch along the long curved edge using a straight stitch and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. After it's done, you can trim that seam allowance down so that it's not too bulky inside, and snip out some little wedges right along that curve, and that'll also reduce the bulk right in that curve. Turn the zipper guard right side out, and you'll want to give it a little press, just being careful not to burn your fabric. To attach the zipper to the zipper guard, we are going to mark the notch that we transferred from our pattern piece. You can see mine is marked with a pin. I'm using some wash away adhesive tape here, And once you've got the tape on, you're going to place the zipper with right sides up. Line the very top of your zipper teeth with that pin, and then you're going to fold the zipper tape down and out of the way before you fold the top of the zipper guard down onto the zipper tape. And you can see that little excess zipper tape is sticking out right on the left-hand side there. We'll trim that away later, but for now we'll baste the zipper to the zipper guard. Use a basting stitch, which is a straight stitch at the longest stitch length, and just baste that right in place. And now the zipper is attached to the zipper guard. We'll go ahead and get working on the collar. Make sure you have your new zipper attached to the zipper guard and your two collar pieces. For this example, the olive fabric will be my main fabric and the patterned fabric will be my liner fabric. So we're going to be working first with the main fabric, and with right sides up of the collar and right sides up of the zipper on your table, you're going to flip the zipper down onto the right side of the collar. Align the very bottom edge of the zipper guard with the bottom edge of the collar and pin them in place. The top of your zipper guard should be 3/8 of an inch away from the top of your collar. You can also use that wash away adhesive tape that I used earlier. I found that mine did not want to stick to this fabric. Now we're going to bring over the lining fabric, and we're going to place the lining fabric with right sides facing down toward the wrong side of the zipper. Line up the fabric of the lining with the fabric of the main and pin that in place. If you find that you're having trouble stitching your fabric, it's bubbling near the zipper, for example, you can add a thin strip of iron-on interfacing. My strip is a 1/2 inch wide, and I've ironed it on about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. For all of the zipper steps, we're going to be using a straight stitch. So using your zipper foot, I will like to place with my main fabric facing up, because that way I can more easily feel the teeth of the zipper as I'm stitching. You want your zipper foot to help guide you so that you can stitch very closely to those zipper teeth. Now this fabric's pretty thick, so I thought it would stand up to a straight stitch pretty well, but it has a lot of vertical stretch, so you're going to notice bubbling almost immediately as I start stitching. I ended up taking it off and adding that interfacing, and it worked much better. With the first side of the zipper stitched into place, we'll pull the zipper right side out, and you can see how it is attached to one side of the collar. So lay it on your table with right sides up, and go ahead and close that zipper for the moment. It's easier stitching the zipper when it's pulled down and out of the way, but for right now we want to pull it up and closed and move that zipper guard out of the way. Just like so. And now we're going to lay it all down again with right sides up, and we're going to grab the other side of the collar, and we're going to be pulling it over to the other side of the zipper tape just like that. Now I'm using my little clip to mark 3/8 of an inch away from the top of the collar, because remember, we want the top of the zipper teeth to be 3/8 of an inch away from that top edge. Fold the excess zipper tape out and away from the teeth, and make sure those teeth go 3/8 of an inch away from the top. We'll pin this side in place. Make sure the bottom edges of the collar all align and hit the zipper at just the same spot. Now we're going to bring over the lining fabric. It's going to go underneath. Just fold it over this way. So it's sort of folding with right sides on itself, and it's coming around to the back side of that zipper that we just pinned. So you're going to have the main fabric on one side of that zipper and then the lining fabric on the other side, just like before. And now they're pinned just like that with the zipper sandwiched in between. We'll take it over to our machine, and again we'll use a straight stitch in our zipper foot in order to stitch close to those teeth. Bring everything right sides out and check the alignment of the fabric at the top and bottom of the zipper on both sides. Here's how it will look on the inside of your garment with that zipper guard hiding the zipper from your skin. Once we're satisfied with the placement of the zipper on the collar, we'll turn everything with right sides together in order to finish that top edge. Line up and pin together the top edges of the main and lining collar. We'll be stitching along this top edge with a stretch stitch or serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. To make the top of the jacket look really clean when the zipper is closed, you want to stitch as close as possible to those teeth. I left my zipper foot on, but you can switch to your regular foot. It may be helpful though to use a straight stitch just to get past those zipper teeth and then switch to your stretch stitch or serger. Clip the corners to remove any excess bulk. You can clip the stitches that go beyond the corner, but just don't clip anything that's creating the seam or you'll clip a little hole in your collar. Turn everything right side out, give it a quick press, and then you can top stitch. You can use a straight stitch along the edges of the zipper, but across the top of the collar you may want to use a stretch stitch if you'll be wearing your collar up. It's up to you though. If you don't mind the lack of stretch across the top, you can use a lengthened straight stitch along the top as well. Now let's make the zipper collar without the guard. We'll start with our collar pieces, and I've marked 3/8 of an inch from the top using one of my clips. We'll begin by applying some wash away adhesive tape to the right edge of the collar. Now take the zipper and flip it so that the right side is down, facing the right side of the fabric. Find the very top of the zipper teeth and align that with the 3/8 of an inch marking on the fabric. Now align the edge of the zipper tape with the edge of the fabric all the way down. Next, bring over the lining fabric, and we're going to put that with right sides down on top of the zipper that we just attached to the main fabric. Align the edges of the lining fabric with the edges of the main fabric. Make sure the excess zipper tape above the teeth is folded down and away from the teeth. It may stick out a little bit from between the fabric pieces, but that's okay. Now stitch using a straight stitch and your zipper foot so that you can get close to those zipper teeth. Pull everything right sides out and zip up the zipper so that we can align the fabric for the second side of the zipper tape. Now lay the collar with the right side of the main and the right side of the zipper facing up. Apply some wash away adhesive tape to the other side of the zipper tape. Lift up the other front edge of that collar And we're going to place it with right sides down onto the zipper. So you want to line up the bottom of the collar so that it matches with the other front edge bottom. And then we'll apply it all the way up, and also make sure that that 3/8 inch marking on the other side is where the top of the zipper teeth land. And this is how you fold that excess zipper tape down and away from the zipper teeth. And now we can line up the top of those zipper teeth with the 3/8 inch marking on the other side of our collar. If your zipper tape is long enough, I recommend pulling that zipper pull out of the way. It makes it much easier to work this edge. Now we're going to attach the liner to the other edge of this zipper tape. It's laying face down now, so we will flip it around the back so that it is right side facing up toward that zipper. We're going to line up the other edge of the zipper in just the same manner. Stitch it in place, again using your straight stitch and zipper foot in order to get close to those teeth. And now we can trim off that excess zipper tape that we folded out of the way. At this point, you can turn everything right side out as well and zip up the collar to make sure everything looks aligned and you're satisfied with your stitches. Once you've done that, turn it right sides together again like this, and we will line up the main and the lining at the very top edge in order to stitch that closed. Pin or clip along the top edge. We're going to use a stretch stitch or serger in order to stitch the top of this collar. A little tip if you're using a serger, use a straight stitch on your sewing machine for the first and last inch of this stitch. That'll allow you to stitch really close to the top of those teeth and get a really nice finish at the very top of your zipper. And here I'm showing you real time to show how slowly I'm going over those zipper teeth, because I'm just making sure that I'm going very close to them to get that nice finish. Clip the corners to remove excess bulk at these top corners of your zipper, and you can even do a couple extra snips where these green lines are to remove a little more bulk if that wasn't enough. Just be careful you don't clip into your stitches. Now turn everything right side out and give it a press. Once pressed, we'll prepare the top edge a little further for stitching. I like to use a finger roll to make sure that seam is pushed all the way out, and use some clips to hold it in place. We'll go all the way around, finger rolling and clipping that top edge. We'll top stitch from the bottom with a straight stitch lengthened slightly, and then at the top we'll turn and go around the back of the collar. At this point you can switch to a stretch stitch such as a triple straight stitch or a zigzag or even lightning bolt stitch to finish around the top, and that'll give you plenty of stretch at the top of your collar. If you're not worried about having stretch at the top of your collar, you can just continue on with a lengthened straight stitch, which is what I'll be doing. I'll probably be wearing my collar down most of the time, and collars touching my neck doesn't bother me, so that's a decision that you can make based on how you're going to wear your shirt and what your personal preferences are. In order to attach the front insert pieces correctly, make sure you've lined them up just like so. Double notches on the collar are next to the double notches on the front insert piece. We also want to make sure that the circle markings are toward the bottom and that the single notches are pointing out to the sides. Once we have everything aligned, we'll flip the front insert piece onto the collar, aligning the bottom edge and the double notches, and pin them in place. Stitch and cut straight through that top insert piece and then serge off your fabric. It will look just like this. You've got a little point there pointing straight off the edge of the collar. To start at the top edge, you'll serge an inch or so above the top insert piece so that you're at the 3/8 seam allowance once you get to the top insert piece. Iron the seam away from the center, and if you want to top stitch, you'll be top stitching on the top insert side of the seam. Alright, and here's how it looks so far. It's amazing how each step of this process, the shirt already looks amazing. Now we'll bring over our piece B1, which is the front, and we're going to attach that to what we've created so far. You can see how the little curvy bits match up right there. So all we need to do is lay both pieces on our table with right side up, and then flip one of the pieces so that right sides are together and we're lining up that curvy edge. Line up the center points and the circle marks. Now we're going to stitch this seam with a stretch stitch or serger. I'll show you how I managed to get over that zipper and then mention a couple different ideas that I collected from the group. So I started off by stitching a straight stitch at the 3/8 inch seam allowance over that zipper, just to sort of stitch it with a slow hand crank wheel and mark exactly where that 3/8 inch line is. I want to make sure that it's stitched closed before I start to do any kind of stretch stitch. I always hand crank over the zippers to make sure I don't break any needles. Once it's stitched, use your scissors to trim off the excess zipper tape, but in addition, I recommend trimming off the excess seam allowance. If you trim off 1/8 of an inch of the seam allowance just before and after the zipper, then your serger knife doesn't have to trim off as it goes across the zipper, and that'll be a much safer way to serge over that zipper. Now we can begin serging, and you'll see that I'm using the knife to cut away that 1/8 of an inch excess seam allowance as I stitch most of the way. As you get close to the zipper and the area that you trimmed off the excess seam allowance, the knife can come off of the fabric safely so that it doesn't have to cut through the zipper teeth. You can hand crank your needles over the zipper teeth and know that this section is already securely stitched with the straight stitch that you did earlier. Once you get past the section that you trimmed, you can turn your knife back on and come back onto the fabric, stitching normally the rest of the way. And here's how it looks from the inside. The serger stitch lines up almost perfectly with the straight stitch, and my knife didn't have to cut through the zipper teeth at all, and I didn't break any needles going over them either. Press the seam down to top stitch if desired, once again hand cranking over those zipper teeth. And here's another idea posted in our Facebook group by one of our wonderful group admins, Mona. She has shortened the zipper at the bottom and then extended it back to the original length using an additional piece of fabric stitched to the zipper tape at the bottom. With this additional tab of fabric at the bottom, there's no part of the zipper inside of the seam. If you're using the side inserts, this is a point in which you will attach them right along here. Just line them up with right sides together and stitch just as you have the other pieces. And if you'd like to top stitch them, you'll iron the seam toward the center and top stitch over that center panel. From here on out, I'll show you which pieces to stitch, but we won't be heading over to my machine for every stitch. Go ahead and move the front pieces over to the side, and we're now going to construct the back pieces. Take your center back and your side back panels and align them just like so with right sides up on the table. Flip the side back panel onto the center, aligning that curved vertical seam, and we'll pin in place, lining up the top and bottom edges as well as the double notches. Remember that when you're pinning a curve, it's easier to pick up the fabric to do that because we're aligning the fabric at the 3/8 inch seam allowance, not along the raw edges of the fabric. Stitch with a stretch stitch or serger in a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Press the seam in toward the center and top stitch if desired. Bring over the lower back insert, and we are going to now pin that to the bottom of the back. Line up the center of the back with the notch on the lower back insert and pin in place. Stitch with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, a stretch stitch or a serger, and press the seam down toward the lower back insert and top stitch if desired. Now we'll pin the front and the back together along those long side seams. Stitch with a stretch stitch or serger in a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now we'll construct the sleeves. The sleeve inserts are symmetrical on both sides, so what's nice about that is you don't have to be concerned with which sleeve insert goes on which sleeve. Just line up those edges and pin in place. And you can do both sides at the same time. Stitch with a stretch stitch or serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now let's bring our sleeves and our shirt over to the table. Lay the shirt with wrong sides facing out and the back of the shirt facing up. Lay the sleeves with right side facing out, the bottom of the arm side at the bottom, just like the bottom of the shirt at the bottom. Make sure everything is positioned just like so. The double notches will be on top, double notch on top, and the same with the other side. Double notch of the back and double notch of the back sleeve. Once you have everything positioned so, you can open up the shirt and set one of the sleeves inside, just like this. And now you have the double notches of the sleeve touching the double notches of the shirt with right sides together. We're going to go around that entire rounded edge of the sleeve and pin it in place with the shirt. If you've made the side insert option on your shirt, then the seam of the sleeve insert will match up with the side insert on the shirt. When we get around toward the front of the shirt, the single notches will line up as well. Pin to the end of the rounded edge on your sleeve piece. Repeat with the other sleeve, and then we'll stitch them both up using a stretch stitch or serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. When starting at the back edge, you'll stitch right onto the fabric at the 3/8 inch seam allowance. When you get to the front edge of the sleeve, make sure to keep the edges of the fabric lined up together, and you're going to keep that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way through the front edge of the sleeve. As soon as I get past the sleeve, I'll turn off my knife and give a few extra stitches to serge right off the fabric. And here's a close-up look at that transition at the front edge of the sleeve. If you prefer to begin the stitch at the front edge of the sleeve, you'll do just the opposite. Begin a few stitches before the sleeve starts so that you can serge onto your fabric and then be at the 3/8 inch seam allowance as soon as you arrive at the sleeve. These curved seams can be a little fiddly, and we have a lot of fabric underneath the sleeve piece there, so just make sure that nothing is bunched up or folded underneath. You want to make sure that the fabric under the top layer is nice and smooth before you stitch. And when we get to the back end of the sleeve, we'll just stitch straight off the edge. Now we'll reposition the garment so that it is still wrong sides out, but that the back is facing towards us. If your collar is still in the same position from when we made it, you'll see that the front of the collar is facing towards us. So flip the collar just like this, so that now the wrong side of the collar is facing out, just like the shirt. We're going to align the right sides of the back of the shirt with the right side of the collar. Pin in place along the remainder of the raw edges between the collar and the back of the shirt. We're lining up 3 raw edges here, so we want to be very careful and make sure that they all are pointed in the right direction, that nothing's trying to roll in or hide in between layers. Careful pinning right here will make the next stitch a lot easier and a little cleaner as well. When we stitch, we'll begin just a few stitches before our seam, right about here, and then stitch right on over to that back seam all the way around. And here I'm just being very careful to make sure that when I removed that clip that the fabric didn't shift. I want to make sure those raw edges are aligned all the way to the edge. The pattern includes 1-inch hem allowances for the sleeves and the bottom hem, but you can adjust that to your preference. I made a 3/4 inch sleeve hem. Double that amount, so 1.5 inches for my hem, and draw a line at 1.5 inches away from the raw edge. Fold the raw edge to the line and press. This will give you a nice even hem and make it easier to stitch. For the bottom hem, I used the full 1-inch hem allowance, so I doubled that and drew a line 2 inches away from the raw edge, then folded the raw edge to that line, and now I have a 1-inch hem. After a nice press, it'll be really easy to stitch in place. And there you have it, wonderfully hemmed sleeves and bottom on your brand new Veltori top. You are going to be obsessed with your new top. I know I can't wait to make another one for myself, and I suspect you're going to feel the same way. Thanks for joining me in sewing up a Veltori top together. I can't wait to see your makes. Please share on social media using #GSVeltori. We absolutely love to see all your wonderful makes and smiling faces. Happy sewing from all of us at Greenstyle.